Good evening, darlings. So tonight I have a request from YouTube user LegolasGreenleaf who says, "My beloved king, do you like flowers? What is your favorite one?" Of course I enjoy flowers. I think that there's such a variety in the beauty of all living things, particularly plants, and flowers because of what they represent, that attraction, the temptation for whether it's another plant or whether it's for um, some sort of pollinator. I think there's something quite beautiful and sort of it's more um, it's that side of nature that I think sometimes we tend to sort of gloss over with poeticisms. And I think it's important to remember sort of the more primal nature of nature. And I think it's, there's sort of a lot of prudishness about sort of reproduction in any way, but a flower is part of the reproductive organs of a plant, and I think it's important to remember that that part of any living thing has a sort of beauty to it. Now, I don't want to go on too long on that tangent because I think people perhaps may misconstrue my words, but you'll interpret as you will, I suppose. So I do enjoy flowers. My favorite one, there was a time where I was sort of partial to the thistle. And this may sound a bit strange because thistles aren't really revered for their beauty, but it was something about that unusual shade of sort of dusty blue, and also that sort of mix of the beauty and the danger that I really felt um, sort of symbolic of myself and other elves as well, and I think a lot of people would perhaps choose the rose for that reason. Um, but I think the rose is a bit showier than I really felt proper for myself, and so the thistle was something that I really enjoyed. Um, After you know, my wife's favorite flower was the mountain lily. Um, and so for a while, I had such happy associations with the lily that I sort of, well, it sort of became my favorite flower by extension because whenever I saw them, I thought of her, and that just always made me very happy. And when my son was born, there was something about the sunflower that always sort of reminded me of him. And so I often in summer had the palace decorated with mountain lilies and sunflowers, um, and occasionally a thistle thrown in there, just to sort of represent sort of us as a family. And after her passing, um, I couldn't really see a lily without thinking of her still. And so for me, I had to um, stop doing that. And, um, I don't know that my son is sort of the sunflower anymore. I feel the sunflower sort of has a very youthful innocence to it. Not that my son is not young or still very naive in the way that children are, but he has grown to be much wiser than I think the sunflower sort of represents. Because the sunflower is so open and giving, it absorbs everything that comes down to it from the sun, and it gives a plethora of seeds. And I feel like while there's still some aspects of that in my son, of course he is still quite young. Um, it's different though. He's different now. Um, so I sort of moved past those as being my favorites, and now I'm really not sure. I've sort of steered away from many flowers, and stuck more to just the leaves of trees. I think as a part and a reflection of my not seeking that sort of um, romantic joy that I once had. And I still find leaves and bark can be gorgeous as well, but without that sort of allure of youth that I feel flowers really have. So, I still do enjoy them, but I would say probably something a little more subtle is more my taste. There's um there's a flower that I've only seen a couple of times. In the native tongue, it's called higenbana, and um, they look almost like a tulip, like that sort of structure of blossom, except with very thin, sort of crinkled petals. And the reason why it's called this is because the flower, which is really called the flower of the other world, um, is the plant itself dies back in the fall, and then the flower blooms after the death of the plant. So it's as if the flower is coming from the other side after the plant has died. And um, I feel that sort of hits a very spiritual note for myself because I have had to live on after a death and find that spark of life and beauty still afterwards. And so for me, I feel that is probably the flower that I enjoy the most because I hope that there's still some beauty and life left in me after that. I admit I have not been the same. I have become more jaded since that time, but I do hope that I can continue to spread my wisdom and that spark of life that we all should have. So I'm sorry that this has gotten perhaps a little bit more melancholy than your request had initially anticipated, but that is the truth of things. So thank you so much, darling, and until next time, ta ta.